Rain slammed against the sidewalk when Sofia collapsed beside me. 1 second she was holding my hand, smiling weakly as we crossed the street. The next, her knees hit the pavement. "Daniel," she choked out, clutching her stomach, "I can't feel the baby." Everything inside me went cold. I dropped beside her. Cars splashed water onto the curb while people stopped and stared. Sofia's breathing turned sharp and uneven, and her fingers dug into my arm hard enough to hurt. "Stay with me," I kept saying. "Look at me, Sophie, look at me." She tried to answer, but another wave of pain bent her forward. I didn't wait for an ambulance. I picked her up and ran through the rain toward Mercy Vale Hospital, half a block away. The emergency room doors slid open, and I shouted before I even reached the desk. "My wife's pregnant, she collapsed outside, please help her." Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. A nurse rushed forward with a wheelchair, but the moment she asked for insurance, everything slowed down. I don't have the card with me," I said. "Please just help her first." The nurse hesitated. That hesitation scared me more than Sofia collapsing. Then another woman walked over, older, sharp suit, sharp voice. Her badge read, "Linda Mercer, Billing Administration." "What coverage does she have?" she asked. "I'll figure it out later," I said. "She can barely breathe." Linda folded her arms. "Emergency intake requires a $7,000 deposit without active insurance verification." For a second I thought I heard her wrong. "You want money right now?" "That is hospital policy." Sofia suddenly jerked in the wheelchair, gasping for air. I grabbed the sides of the chair. "She's passing out." The younger nurse looked panicked. "Ma'am, her pulse is dropping." "Do not admit her until payment clears," Linda said flatly. The nurse stopped moving. I stared at all of them. Doctors walked past us. Machines beeped somewhere behind the doors. My wife sat there shaking while nobody touched her. "I work 2 jobs," I said. "I'll pay you, I swear to God I'll pay you." Linda didn't even look at Sofia. No money, no treatment. The waiting room went quiet. People were watching now, some pretending not to, some openly staring. I could feel the humiliation crawling up my neck while Sofia leaned against me, barely conscious. Then her body went limp. No, I dropped to my knees beside her. "Sofia, baby, wake up." I looked up at the staff. "Help her." Linda turned toward security near the entrance. "Remove them if they become disruptive." That was the moment something inside me broke. I remember gripping the wheelchair so hard my hands hurt. I remember thinking my wife was going to die on a hospital floor because I was poor. And then a voice cut through the entire room. "Who refused this patient?" Everything stopped. Nurses straightened immediately, even security froze. I turned and saw a tall man in dark surgical scrubs standing near the entrance, rainwater dripping from his coat onto the tile floor. One of the nurses whispered, "Dr. Hale." He walked straight toward us, took Sofia's chart from the counter and scanned the first page. Then his expression changed instantly. Not confusion. Recognition. He looked directly at Linda. "Why," he said slowly, "is her file marked restricted?" Dr. Hale didn't wait for an answer. "Get her into trauma 2, now." The younger nurse grabbed the wheelchair immediately, but Linda stepped in front of her. "Doctor, admissions hasn't approved." "I didn't ask admissions," Dr. Hale snapped. "I gave an order." That changed everything. Suddenly people started moving. A team rushed Sofia down the hallway while I ran beside her, soaked clothes sticking to my skin, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. "Sofia, stay with me," I kept saying. Her eyes fluttered open for half a second. "Daniel," she whispered weakly. "I'm here." Then she faded again. Inside the trauma room, doctors surrounded her immediately. Machines started beeping. Someone cut away part of her sleeve to place an IV. I stood near the wall, completely helpless. Blood pressure crashing. Pulse irregular. "We need labs now." One nurse looked at another and lowered her voice. Isn't she one of the trial patients? The other nurse shot her a warning look. My stomach tightened. Trial patient. Dr. Hale glanced at me. Mr. Reyes, has your wife ever been involved in a medication program, any kind of clinical study? What? No. He held my stare a second too long. She's had fainting spells before, he asked. I nodded slowly. A few times, she always said it was stress. While doctors worked around Sofia, memories started slamming into me all at once. Sofia hiding envelopes whenever I came home early. Her insisting we couldn't afford another checkup. The nights I woke up and found her sitting alone in the bathroom holding her head while she thought I was asleep. I'd asked her over and over what was wrong. Every time she smiled and said, "I'm okay." A sharp voice pulled me out of it. I stepped into the hallway, just in time to see Linda cornering the younger nurse near a computer station. "Delete the lobby footage," Linda hissed, "before somebody leaks it." The nurse looked shaken. "Ma'am, people already saw." "Then make sure there's no recording." I stayed hidden around the corner, my chest tightening. Why would they care about footage unless they'd done something wrong? Then Linda pulled out her phone. I only caught part of the conversation. "Yes, she's here," she said quietly. "If this reaches the board, we're finished." Finished? My pulse spiked. This wasn't just about money. I stepped into the hallway. What does that mean? Linda turned sharply, instantly cold again. You shouldn't be wandering around restricted areas. What did you mean we're finished? You need to focus on your wife. I am focused on my wife, I snapped. Why does everyone here act like they already know her? For the first time, Linda's expression shifted slightly. Not guilt. Fear. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You have no idea what your wife signed up for." Before I could stop her, she walked away. I stood there frozen. What signed up for? Confused, I grabbed Sofia's purse from the chair outside the trauma room, hopping to find her insurance card. Instead, tucked inside a side pocket, I found a plastic hospital bracelet. Mercy Vale Hospital. Patient name, Sofia Reyes. Date issued 8 months earlier. My hands started shaking. Because Sofia had never told me she'd been here before. I stormed back into the billing lobby with the bracelet clenched in my fist. People recognized me immediately. I could feel it. The soaked guy whose pregnant wife had been denied treatment. Phones started lifting again the second I reached the front desk. I slammed the bracelet onto the counter. "What is this?" I shouted. Linda looked up sharply. "Lower your voice." My wife was here 8 months ago. Several people in the waiting room turned toward us. Linda reached for the bracelet, but I pulled it back first. "You told me you couldn't treat her because we didn't have money," I said, "but you already had her in your system." "Sir, this is not the place for—" "No," I cut her off. "You explain it right now." A man near the chairs started recording openly. Another woman said, "That's the couple from earlier." Linda noticed the phones and immediately changed her tone. "Security," she called calmly. "Please escort Mr. Reyes outside." Before security could move, Dr. Hale walked into the lobby. "What's happening?" I held up the bracelet. "You tell me, everyone here acts like they know my wife." Dr. Hale took the bracelet, looked at the date, then turned toward Linda. "I want her sealed records opened immediately." Linda's jaw tightened. "Those files are protected." "She's in critical condition." "And administration policy requires." "Administration policy," Dr. Hale stepped closer. "A pregnant woman almost died in your lobby." The entire room went silent. Even the receptionist stopped typing. Then one of the nurses near the desk spoke up quietly. She was part of the maternal wellness study. Linda whipped around. "Be quiet." But it was too late. I stared at the nurse. "What study?" The nurse looked nervous. "They recruited low-income women last year. compensation payments, routine monitoring, things like that. My stomach dropped. Sofia had told me she picked up temporary survey work online to help with rent. Not a medical study. Dr. Hale's expression darkened. That program was shut down. The nurse nodded nervously after complications started showing up. I looked back at Linda. What complications? She signed consent forms, Linda said immediately. Participants acknowledged risks. You denied her treatment. She failed to report pre-existing conditions. That hit me like a slap. You're blaming her. She chose to participate. I moved toward her before I even realized it. Security grabbed my arm instantly. You let her collapse in front of everybody. Sir, calm down, one guard warned. People in the lobby started talking over each other now. Can hospitals even do that? They refused her because she was poor. Record this. Linda looked around and realized she was losing control. Then the younger nurse approached me quietly, while security still held me back. She slipped a folded document into my hand. Read this before they take it, she whispered. I opened it immediately. At the top of the page was Sofia's patient file number, and beneath it, highlighted in red, do not escalate without admin approval. My blood went cold. Before I could read the rest, 3 men in suits entered the lobby fast. Hospital lawyers. No more filming, one of them ordered. Put your phones away immediately. Dr. Hale ignored them completely. A nurse handed him Sofia's newest lab results. He scanned the page once, and all the color drained from his face. He looked up slowly. She should never have been discharged after that trial. By the time I got back upstairs, Sofia was already in surgery. The red light above the operating room doors glowed across the hallway, while nurses rushed in and out carrying equipment. Nobody would tell me anything at first. Then Dr. Hale came out wearing gloves stained with blood. She's in multi-organ distress, he said quickly. We're trying to stabilize her. I could barely get the words out. From what? He hesitated. The reaction pattern matches experimental medication exposure. Everything around me felt distant after that. Experimental. Medication. I leaned against the wall trying to breathe, while memories kept replaying in my head. Every time Sofia said she was just tired. Every headache she brushed off. Every moment she insisted we couldn't afford another doctor visit. She'd known something was wrong. And she'd been carrying it alone. A soft voice interrupted my thoughts. Mr. Reyes. The younger nurse stood near the vending machines, glancing nervously down the hallway. I don't have much time. She handed me a stack of printed emails. My eyes moved across the pages. Internal communications. Warnings. Doctors reporting complications from the maternal study. Administrators ordering staff to classify symptoms as unrelated. One message had Linda Mercer's name attached to it directly. Deny non-essential follow-up unless approved by administration. I looked up at the nurse. They knew. Her eyes filled with fear. Some of the doctors tried to stop it. Before I could ask anything else, voices erupted down the corridor. Hospital executives rushed past with lawyers beside them. Outside the windows near the waiting area, flashing lights reflected against the glass. Reporters. Crowds had gathered outside the hospital. Videos from the lobby were spreading online. I could already hear chanting from the street below. Dr. Hale suddenly appeared near the conference room doors. You buried patient complications, he said furiously to Linda. I warned you months ago this trial wasn't safe. Linda's composure finally cracked. You think we had a choice, she snapped back. Do you know what would have happened if investors pulled funding? So you sacrificed patients instead. You have no idea how much money was tied into this program. I stood there listening, stunned. My wife had almost died because they were protecting investors. 2 security guards suddenly approached the younger nurse beside me. "Ma'am, administration wants you off hospital property immediately." Her face went pale. "She leaked records," one guard told another. I stepped forward. "She's trying to help." But they escorted her away anyway, while executives watched from the hallway. The only person who'd risked helping us was being thrown out. Then the elevator doors opened again. 2 state investigators stepped out alongside uniformed officers. One held official paperwork. "We're here regarding emergency requests for all records connected to the maternal wellness trial." The hallway exploded into motion again. Lawyers started arguing instantly. Administrators shouted over each other. For the first time all night, I saw panic on Linda Mercer's face. Then Dr. Hale turned back toward me. "There's one more procedure we can try," he said quietly, "but it's dangerous." "Will it save her?" "It's her best chance." Before he could walk away, Linda stepped directly into his path. "You cannot authorize that surgery," she said. "If complications are documented now, it creates direct liability." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "She's still thinking about liability," I shouted. Dr. Hale stared at Linda for one long second. Then he grabbed the authorization tablet from her hands and signed it himself. "If administration wants someone to blame," he said coldly, "they can blame me." And he disappeared back into the operating room. The surgery lasted all night. I sat alone in the hallway outside the operating room, while reporters crowded the hospital entrance downstairs and investigators carried boxes of records through the lobby. Every hour felt heavier than the last. Sometimes nurses rushed past without saying anything. Sometimes the doors opened just long enough for me to catch a glimpse of bright surgical lights and doctors moving around Sofia's body before they shut again. I couldn't stop replaying everything I'd missed. The pills Sofia used to throw away before I got home. The mornings she sat at the kitchen table rubbing her hands because they wouldn't stop shaking. The nights I woke up and found her crying quietly in the bathroom, telling me she was just hormonal when I asked what was wrong. She'd been terrified the entire time. And I never saw it. Around 4 in the morning, one of the TVs in the waiting area switched to a live news report outside Mercy Vale Hospital. Footage from the lobby played across the screen. Me begging for help. Sofia unconscious in the wheelchair. Linda saying no money, no treatment. People in the waiting room stared at the television in silence. Then the reporter said something that made the entire floor go still. "Tonight, multiple former participants in Mercy Vale's maternal wellness study have come forward alleging the hospital ignored severe medical complications tied to experimental treatment programs targeting low-income women. Maury women. Not just Sofia." By sunrise, state investigators had sealed 2 administrative offices upstairs. Hospital lawyers moved through the building like ghosts. And then the operating room doors finally opened. Dr. Hale stepped out slowly, exhaustion written all over his face. For one terrifying second, he said nothing. Then he looked at me and nodded. "She made it." My legs nearly gave out. "The baby?" I asked immediately. He let out a long breath. "Alive, both of them are alive." I covered my face with my hands and broke down right there in the hallway. After everything that happened, hearing those words felt unreal. A few hours later, I finally sat beside Sofia's hospital bed in intensive care. She looked pale and exhausted, wires and monitors surrounding her, but when her eyes opened and found mine, she started crying immediately. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I grabbed her hand carefully. "Sorry for what?" "For hiding it." She told me everything. Months earlier, after I hurt my back and missed weeks of work, she secretly joined Mercy Vale's maternal wellness study because they promised fast compensation payments for struggling couples. "They said it was safe," she said weakly. "They said they were helping women." At first it seemed harmless. Then the headaches started. The fainting. The numbness in her hands. When she reported symptoms, The hospital dismissed her concerns and stopped scheduling follow-up visits. "They made me feel crazy," she whispered, "like I was imagining it. I felt sick listening to her. You should have told me." "I didn't want you blaming yourself," she said through tears. "You were already working 2 jobs trying to keep us afloat." I held her hand tighter. "You were trying to save us," I told her. "They're the ones who did this." Over the next few days, the truth exploded publicly. Investigators uncovered internal reports proving Mercy Vale administrators knew the trial was causing severe complications in women between 18 and 25 years old. Instead of shutting it down publicly, they buried complaints, pressured doctors to stay quiet, and flagged patient files to avoid legal exposure. That was why Sofia had been denied treatment. Not because we were poor. Because they were afraid. Dr. Hale turned over emails showing Linda Mercer and senior administrators personally blocked follow-up care recommendations from physicians. Several doctors testified that they'd been threatened for raising concerns. The younger nurse who gave me the documents was publicly identified after security removed her from the hospital, but instead of losing her career, public support flooded in for her. Within weeks, Linda Mercer was fired, then charged. News cameras followed her out of court during her first hearing, while former study participants lined the steps outside, demanding criminal prosecutions. Hospital executives resigned one after another. Mercy Vale lost major funding contracts almost overnight. And somehow, the man who'd been humiliated in that emergency room lobby became one of the main witnesses in the state investigation. Months later, Sofia finally came home. Recovery was slow. Some days she could barely walk from the bedroom to the couch without getting tired. But she was alive. Our daughter was alive. One evening, I sat beside Sofia in our apartment while she held the baby against her chest. The television across the room played another report about expanding investigations into similar medical programs across the state. Beside Sofia's medication bottles sat a framed photo someone had taken the night everything happened. Me carrying her through the hospital doors while rain poured around us. I stared at that picture for a long time. The hospital tried to erase Sofia as a liability, until the one patient they turned away exposed all of them.